Ted Cruz spoke to the press after a Rules Committee hearing. I believe this was yesterday, and he lies so easily that it's not borderline sociopathic. It basically is. Don't mean to misdiagnose you, Ted Cruz, but I think it's pretty clear. Let's take a listen to what he has to say about HR 1 and S1.
I just came from the Rules Committee hearing on the Corrupt Politicians Act. This is the most dangerous legislation that's ever been considered by the Rules Committee. It is in the House HR 1, it is in the Senate S1. That means it's the very first bill that was submitted by Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, the very first bill that was submitted by Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. It is their number one priority. Pause for a minute and reflect that the top priority of the Democrats is not COVID-19. It's not immunizations. It's not getting people back to work. It's not reopening schools and getting millions of kids back in the classroom. It is locking in power for the Democrats for the next 100 years. That is their overarching priority. How does it do this?
With voting.
The Corrupt Politicians Act mandates automatic voter registration whenever anyone has an interaction with the government, whether they have an interaction getting a welfare check, an unemployment check, whether they have a driver's license from the DMV.
Okay.
Heaven forbid.
Whether they attend a public university, everyone is registered. This bill is intended to and will register to vote millions of illegal aliens. That is exactly what the Democrats want to do with this bill, is register millions of illegal aliens. And the text of the bill acknowledges that, and it says the illegal aliens who are registered to vote, even though it's against the law for them to vote, they face no liability because they're automatically registered to vote. Not only that, this bill prevents...
We should point out, just pause for a second,
from addressing that
there's a woman in jail, I think in Texas, serving significant time for that exact reason. It's a very good improvement to this. If people aren't certain about their citizenship status and they go vote, that shouldn't be an expulsion offense or something to lock them up for. It's ridiculous that it is.
It doesn't get counted. And also, for the most part, people who are here and don't have documentation, don't go out of their way to do, is vote and get noticed by the government. This isn't a thing, but continue.
Although one more point, sorry, just on the note of taxation without representation, it's also documented that these people do pay a lot into taxes, even under like false names, but they aren't represented by votes. So I think they actually, unless we can make sure that they aren't paying any taxes, which of course we're not going to.
They don't get their tax dollars back in the form of benefits. Yeah.
Exactly.
I have to say before I, condemn
Hold on, let's
what
just
he was.
continue with the clip really quick, and
Sure.
then we'll dive into it. Sorry, Brandon.
No problem.
There's only like 3 seconds left.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought there was more because he says child molesters. I read the Guardian article about it too, but we can
play these last 3 seconds, because if it's literally just him saying child molesters, it could be pretty fun.
Oh, right.
from addressing that, from correcting the voter rolls, prevents the states from removing dead people from the voter rolls to facilitate voter fraud.
All right. That didn't have the child molesters part, but I digress. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was just gonna say, maybe it's the low res of the video, but Ted Cruz is looking a lot better than he used to. I mean,
it's
the
the facial hair.
Yeah, I mean, he looks a little bit like Ra's al Ghul, like a little bit of like a Ra's al Ghul going through a bulking phase, like when what's his name, Liam Neeson was playing him. Very very good look. It's a better look for him. I can't deny that. On the other hand, I mean, let's say everything he's saying is vaguely true, right? That even on the worst case scenario, somehow a handful of people who are unable to, like, or rather who shouldn't be voted, quote unquote, end up voting. It's like, in a world where you register everyone else, all the other citizens, that should be drowned out just by the numbers. Theoretically, people who, we'd have everyone else voting too. But you can't say that, right? You can't say that like a handful of people doing the wrong thing is not enough of an excuse to justify everyone else having their rights taken away from them. But that doesn't make any sense. Even if you concede his point, like, okay, well, let's say like 50, 50,000, even 50,000 people who shouldn't be voting, 50,000 dead people after the voter rolls. There are 300. There are so many American voters. It shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter. But that's just the appealing to the punitive nature of our country. You know what? If even one person might do the wrong thing with this power, no one should be allowed to have it. And it's just all very like asinine.
Right. I mean, this is the same. Honestly, I feel like I've heard this speech 1,000 times before from these guys, right? I mean, these are the same scare tactics they've used about this very same thing since the beginning of time. I mean, really, it's, but Ted Cruz, obviously, it comes off a little bit more, I guess, sniveling from him.
Sniveling. Yeah.
Sniveling. Thank you. It is nice. He's got a nice like new hairdo going on there, right? That's new, right?
The beard hides his weak chin.
Yeah, I didn't mean to like give him a compliment about the beard, but if you look at him before he had that thing, I mean, he's a very
different man. No, different man. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. Like before, he looked like a wax statue brought to life by like profane magic. Now he looks like pretty normal, like completely pretty. Like I wouldn't pick him out as like the weird one in the crowd, like I did when he was in the Republican primary.
Listen, I can tell
He's
you
marketing off it now too. Check out these cool spring break
oh hell yeah
job,
Ted
Cruz.
Is my
I can tell you that
on the
he
majority
looks
of
not
the
great
website,
here,
right?
though. Honestly,
I want a documentary made of every guy who bought that.
Yeah,
that looks nothing like Ted Cruz though.
Yeah,
that looks like this might seem like a fourth reference, but that looks like the plumber from Bob's Burgers from the side with like a mohawk. That looks nothing like Ted Cruz.
No, you're right in terms of that. It doesn't look like him. What it looks like is I don't know if you guys know this, but like in punk rockers who have mohawks, when they don't spike it up, they just like comb it back like that, and that's exactly how it looks like. That's exactly how it looks like.
It's just like a mullet. It's a kind of mullet type haircut.
What does that slogan mean? McConnell in the front. Do they like McConnell?
Well, I mean,
I guess he means business in the front, party in the back, right? So McConnell is all business.
So he's bridging. That's how they're bridging MAGA and the McConnell, elite.
Oh,
right?
Is that what that means? Is that what that shirt's supposed to convey? I was
think
not
so.
That at all.
I mean, that's what the actual party in the business in the front, party in the back of a mullet usually.
Because it's not it's not a dig at McConnell. It doesn't seem like, which is kind of surprising.
It seems like a protest Cruz shirt. I'm just trying to understand what it's saying about him.
It seems like a dig on McConnell and Ted Cruz, because if either of them look like the other in the front, that's not a good reflection on either of their faces. But I'd rather look like Ted Cruz than McConnell, to be honest with you. But that's a real devil's bargain.
It's also just a bad shirt. I'm not really giving it much thought because I don't care so much because it's an ugly shirt. But I think it's just his new way of branding himself post Trump.
Yes.
After he was implicated in that kind of Capitol riot where that cop got beat to death. He's trying to.
Interesting though that it doesn't say, it says McConnell in the front, but it doesn't say Trump in the back. It says MAGA. No mention of Trump on that shirt.
Well, you gotta abstract the movement from Trump, because Trump is no longer the head of the MAGA movement.
Yeah, it's bigger than me.
It's bigger than him because he's off Twitter now. So now there has to be somebody to sort of take over the reins of that media machine. And, Ted Cruz doesn't have any charisma, but he does have a beard now.
He does have shamelessness, and speaking of branding, he is trying with all of his might to make HR 1/S1 the Corrupt Politicians Act, or whatever he kept repeating with his faux outrage there. And I love how he said the Democrats' priority is not dealing with COVID.
It's weird.
It's this, like, because that's not going to be an effective message as COVID actually begins to be dealt with in an effective manner and the vaccine rollout ramps up under Biden. That's just really one issue. It's just you're not going to have a good lane there, Republican Party, in attacking the Democrats.
It is weird though that you would call it the Corrupt Politicians Act if you wanted to. Like when I first heard him say that, I was like, why would you have a problem against an act going after corrupt politicians?
It's a little convoluted. Yeah.
Like that's what my first thought was. Like I think
it's good messaging. I mean, people don't like corrupt politicians. So then, if you come out against it, you have to come out against the Corrupt Politicians Act. And even if it's only vaguely related to that kind of, the kind of corruption people think about when they think about corrupt politicians, like self-dealing, like Andrew Cuomo, even if they don't think of Andrew Cuomo, it still like conveys the kind of like good messaging, like that free money act they were giving away. They tried for, like, that was good. People want to know what they're voting for. They want to be able to support things. I think that's important. That's why, and it to me, I think a good example of that was how silly Ted Cruz sounded in that clip coming out against the Corrupt Politicians Act. Because he just goes like, these Corrupt Politician Act, they want to register everyone to vote. And it wasn't until the end I was like, oh, he means like illegal immigrants. I was just, because everything up until
he had to
was
explicitly say that.
Yeah, because
oh yes, illegal aliens. So not just immigrants, but also like I assume space kind, which is probably for the best.